Good afternoon. So today we'll see a new topic, that is aging. It can be pronounced as A-G-I-N-G or A-G-I-N-G. Aging or aging, both means the same. The process of getting older is the literary meaning. Right. So aging is a natural process, which is an inevitable one. So, however, one is fit enough or aesthetically looking, but aging process and the changes related to aging will definitely occur, and one has to undergo the process of aging. So, as soon as you hear the word aging, you may not be interested in knowing things because you will try to recollect the image of aging person with bald head, graying hair, and wrinkled skin, and other deteriorating physiological functions. Of course, in nature, everybody wants to live long. Suppose one attempt to live long, even I wish that one should live long. If you live long, so aging is inevitable. So everybody has to go through aging, and one has to know the physiological basis of aging, or the physiological as well as pathophysiological basis for aging and other age-related changes. So that if we know, we can, to a certain extent, we can modify the process of aging, but to a certain extent we can reverse or we can delay the process of aging. So that will help us to maintain or to go through a phase called healthy aging or successful aging. So sometimes if you look at a person, he may be of particular age, maybe example 40 or so, chronologically, but by look, he may look 30. So what it shows, so the physiological age, or you can say the biological age as well as the chronological age may not be the same, because the person may be a trained individual, maybe an athlete who do regular exercise and other activities, thereby he might delay the aging process. So that just by looking at the person, we cannot identify the aging. So there is a difference between what we call biological age and chronological age. Even if a person of the same age group, or maybe a person 50, in both of them, there may be a difference in the both physical appearance as well as physiological state. Both may be different because of the aging process is a multifactorial process which is influenced by many factors. That's what we are going to see. Today, in this particular topic, we would like to know what is aging, what is the definition of aging, what are the processes that are taking place, and we'll try to know what are the factors which are interplaying in causing the process of aging, as well as we'll see, more importantly, the age-related changes in various physiological systems, various organ systems, how they undergo when we become aging. So those changes we'll see. In tomorrow's class or the next class, we'll see what are the various theories of aging and how aging can be modified or modulated so that we can get into successful aging. Those things we'll see in the next class. Today we'll see mostly what is aging and some of the principles of this particular process, as well as the various organ system, how they undergo the age-related changes or the senile changes. That is the scope of today's lecture. So now, as I said, aging is an inevitable process, a multifactorial one. So if we know the process, so we might be able to modify in this particular process. Thereby now we are in the age of the COVID pandemic. Now you might have seen in the West, especially in Europe and America, the number of deaths due to COVID pandemic is high, because in those demographies, especially in the developed countries, the number of aged population is high, as well as those people living with aged as well as other comorbidities. that leads to higher number of deaths. Suppose in the case of India, of course, we have what we call demographic dividend, where we have more number of working population, or we have young population. So that is the reason the number of deaths in India is less. So with this, we'll go to the today's topic in little more details. So now, due to advancement in medical science, as well as the quality of life has definitely improved from our civilization point of view. So we have, even in India, there is a considerable amount of elderly population. Of course, the number is more in the Western world. As the life expectancy is increasing, we need to know this aging process a little more critically, so that we can avoid the age-related ailments to a great extent, so that otherwise the old age people will cause overwhelming exhaustion of the medical facilities available. So that can be avoided by going through a process called intervention of this aging process, by particularly knowing this process in detail. So aging physiologically is the time-related deterioration of physiological functions necessary for survival and fertility. So in a sense, nothing but it is the relationship between time and life. So it is the effect of time on our human life. According to WHO, the aging is the biological course it starts with conception and ends with death. So the whole process we call aging. Aging is not only the process taking place at the old age, it starts at very young age. Of course, at a different rate, that we'll see. So the scope of today's lecture is not distinguish the usual from successful aging. Some people undergo usual aging, some people who can able to intervene, or you can say modify the process, can undergo successful aging, and describe the major age associated changes. That is the scope of today's lecture, human physiology, and understand the anti-aging effects of exercise, and so able to know the nutritional status of adults, and as well as the risk of medications. If you know these things, then we can modify the process. So as I said, it is not a disease, it is a natural physiological process, and it occurs at different rates among the individuals. Even within the individuals, at different particular phase of life, it may be faster or sometimes it may be decreased. Within the individual as well as amongst the individuals, it occurs at different rates. It may vary between person to person. Even within the person, in different decades, the aging process will be of different rate. So, of course, the aging that generally doesn't cause any symptoms. Of course, it is a slow process. Of course, whatever we see the age-related changes in the old age persons, they are the accumulated changes. Of course, they start very early. As we grow old, these changes become gradually more and more appreciable and of physiological significance, and we see them as age-related changes which occur at the in the elderly subjects. So in aging, there is a cellular as well as physiological deterioration, and with increased mortality with the age. Of course, it is as well as there is a maturation. So all the cells undergo maturation. As a process of maturation, their physiological function gets deteriorated, and they leads to mortality of cells. And the age process, aging process leads to vulnerability to diseases. So the immune function gets decreased, and there's a decreased ability to adapt to stress. In other words, there is an impaired homeostasis, otherwise called as homeostenosis. There is a impaired homeostasis. So normally, so here You should know that the homeostasis is the basis of physiology. It's nothing but suppose imagine a person whose normal cardiac output is about 5 liters per minute. When you undertake exercise, this value undergoes increase maybe up to 20 or 25 liter. In a trained marathoner, it may become as much as 35 liters or so. So that means our body is able to adapt to this new stress. But whereas in old age individuals, such a adaptability to stress becomes impaired. So they cannot able to increase their either cardiac output or maybe pulmonary ventilation or other thing maybe related to the body fluid volume or osmolality, etc. They cannot adapt to a rapid change, but their body ability to maintain homeostasis becomes decreased. This we call as the aging process. So this is influenced by multifactorial thing. Number one is the genetics. Genetics plays a vital role. Of course, we'll see about the role of genetics in little more detail. We'll talk about the theories of aging. And of course, your lifestyle, the way you work and etc., exercise, etc. These things also to a great extent try to influence the process of aging, and as well as the diet, as well as the socio-economic status. The sociology, of course, even the mentally remaining, the mental well-being plays a vital role. Sometimes people will think that they have become old enough, they can't do any function. Definitely, the age-related changes occur in them. Those with lowest ebb, psychological ebb, they try to show age-related changes much more than the normal individuals who are otherwise mentally fit. So aging is a normal process. Sometimes it can occur as a part of a disease process. Suppose when you remain bedridden, there are certain genetic diseases like you might have heard about progeria. There's a genetic disease about which we'll see tomorrow, the next lecture. But anyway, certain disease process wherein you become more sedentary, you remain bedridden. Such persons are those who are not active. So some of these metabolic diseases, etc. In those individuals, the aging process occurs at a faster rate than non-disease normal individuals. Even among the normal individuals, there is a usual process of aging. However, you remain healthy, but still age-related change will definitely occur. In certain individuals, when they have what we call lifestyle modifications and dietary, and they have reduced exposure to ionizing radiations, pollutants, etc., with a nutritional diet, regular exercise, etc., they can modify this process. So in such individuals, they can undergo what we call successful aging. So in this lecture, we'll try to know. So if we know the aging process in detail, so if you know the aging process in detail, so we'll try to know the type of change which is going to occur. Say, for example, they will have insomnia, the sleep the cycle gets altered, and they will have altered bowel habits and the energy balance, and again, they may have benign forgetfulness, the senile dementia, etc. Those things will occur. Suppose we are trying to know the things well in advance, we can prepare ourselves for such an eventuality, so that we try to make such lifestyle modifications, and we make a lot of things what to do, when to do. So by keeping such aids, we can somehow overcome those changes, that's adjust to likely changes. Thereby, we can undergo successful aging, and we can also identify the potential symptoms of a disease like sleep apnea, depression, hypothyroidism, etc., as well as cognitive impairment, for which we can have the lifestyle modifications or medications. Thereby, we can overcome the process. Or you can, in a way, you can delay or you can reverse the process to a little extent. So now our aim should be how to change the usual aging to a successful aging one. This is the important for the clinicians. Now, you know, as the life expectancy has increased, though we have more number of elderly subjects, so they are of more concern. So the whole of the branch of science to deal with the aging is called gerontology. Now, even in medical science, we have a branch of science which deals with the problem of the elderly or the aged population, that is called as the geriatrics or geriatric medicine. So for such people, it is an area of interest. So wherein they try to modify those factors which normally cause the aging process, as well as they try to know the thing they will anticipate, so that they try to make the intervention so that they can happily live without much deterioration of the quality of life. So their understanding will help in maintaining or to improve the modifiable causes for age-related changes, such as we can decrease the exposure to either noise pollution or ionizing radiation, such as UV radiation, etc., and remaining psychological well-being, remaining more, you can say, social, not social isolation. Now we are having social distancing, but normally for remaining psychological well-being, one has to socialize much so that they remain psychologically well. And sometimes their cognitive functions may decrease, the mental inactivity may be there, dementia may be there. So we can help them with certain reminders here and there, certain notes, etc. That will help them to overcome, and again giving a good nutrition, and again doing regular exercise with fitness to strengthen the muscle as well as to maintaining the balance. So that will try to help in making the usual aging to a successful aging one. So you can see in a nutshell, in aging, what are the various physiological changes taking place. In a nutshell, of course, we'll see the individual system in detail. So when it comes to the cardiovascular system, the conductive velocity of nerve fibers, of course, with age, it decreases. You can see the BMR also decreases. The standard cell water content of the cell also decreases. There's a more increasing adiposity, and water content become less. The cardiac index, that is the cardiac output per meter square, and that also decreases. And the GFR, of course, it decreases. Of course, it can be measured by inulin clearance. So GFR decreases, especially by the age of 80 or so. GFR decreases almost sometime up to 40%. And the vital capacity, that is the ventilatory property of the lung, also gets decreased. And the renal plasma flow or the blood flow also decreases. And the maximal breathing capacity, or MBC or MVV, also decreases tremendously, FEV1 and other things. So all the pulmonary, renal, and cardiovascular, respiratory, all systems undergo change, age-related change, or deteriorating change, which is the hallmark of aging process. So if you look at the body composition of a 20-year-old man with vis-a-vis the 70-year-old man, you can see 20-year-old man, the fat content decreases, is about 20% or so, but whereas in elderly, it's about 36%. The cell mass is decreased from 47 to 36%, and the bone matrix and the bone mass decreased to 4% from 6%, and other things more or less remains the same. So you can see that's increasing adiposity and decrease in cell mass as well as the bone matrix. These are the normal changes that normally occur in elderly subjects. Now you can see the central adiposity. So waist to hip ratio is given here. So you can see in both this is in both men and women. There is a percentile increase in the adiposity as the age increases. From young age to as they grow old, the adiposity, you can say wastage ratio, gradually increases. From which you can see there is an increased adiposity as we grow old. You can see there is an increased, the muscle mass gets decreased, but whereas there is an abdominal obesity, or you can say adiposity. Here also you can see the posture also gets changed. Now, today our main topic is how to see the overview of aging physiology, or you can say how various systems undergo changes when we grow old, or age-related changes in various physiological systems. First, we'll see the cardiovascular system. So, especially the maintenance of resting left ventricular function more or less remains the same. But whereas whenever there is an increased need in the cardiac output, normally whenever we exercise or any other stress, etc., we try to increase. This ability to increase cardiac output gets compromised as we go older, so they become less. And there's a decreased ability to compensate for stress or impaired left ventricular function because of the old age. We'll see what are the cellular mechanism which is caused for this. We'll see at a short while. And of course, normally the heart rate more or less remains the same, but of course, the increase in heart rate during exercise, now that compensatory increase decreases, as well as the stroke volume increase to cardiac output, both increase in stroke volume as well as heart rate during exercise. This increase normally will be there. Of course, it won't be there as when you compare with the young individual, whether of the elderly subject. In elderly subject, the increase in heart rate and stroke volume will be blended, because it will be decreased when you compare with the young person. So you can see the effect of aging on the coronary artery disease as well as on the exercise. This is the ejection fraction. These are the ejection fraction, you can say, percentage of peak workload. So how it increases. So from 0, suppose it increases, how it workload increases in different age groups, you can see. These are the old silent ischemics. These are the old controls, the young controls. In different subjects, you can see these are the old silent ischemics. These are the old controls. These are the young controls. So normally in young controls, the ejection fraction increases tremendously as the workload increases. But whereas in old silent ischemics as well as in the old controls, normally the efficiency to exercise or coronary artery, the vulnerability to coronary artery disease increased with aging. Now, within the cardiac muscle, suppose we see the cardiac musculature also, the number of muscle cells becomes less. There is an increased deposition of lipofuscin, yellow-brown pigment, as well as there is a deposition of amyloid as well as the calcium, and there's a more fibrotic changes. There's a more increased fibrotic tissue deposition, etc. And these things will take place. And as well as the valves also, we look at, there will be more tendency towards aortic stenosis as well as mitral valve incompetency. And the resting heart rate, as I said, remains the same, but whereas increasing heart rate due to exercise becomes blunted, and cardiac output increase due to exercise also will be blunted. As far as the blood vessels are concerned, there's increased thickness of intimal layer as well as the media, and there is in the matrix there is an increased collagen deposition and increased fibronectin as well as cross-links. These are the you can say that otherwise known as ages. So due to this, the normally the nasal cell, the vascular tissue becomes increasing stiffness. The pliability or extensibility of the blood vessel becomes decreased, and there is also fragmentation of elastin and calcium deposition. All these changes, physiological changes, leads to the more stiffness of the vascular muscle. The vascular muscle becomes increasingly stiff. You can see, especially the more changes are taking place at the media as well as the intimal layer, so where there is the physiological changes are there. The other change is actually the nodal rhythmicity also function gets slowly depressed, and the ability to changes in baroreceptor reflex becomes decreased, so that the elderly subjects often encounter postural hypotension. That means whenever they stand up, their blood pressure becomes less. Their baroreceptor mechanism fail to compensate, so they will have postural hypotension. And this is the, you can say, oxygenation. B oxygen max. This is the oxygenation with age. So, and again, this is the creatinine excretion. Of course, this we'll see when you see about those systems in detail. Now let us start with the special senses, especially the eye. The visual acuity gets impaired. There is, I can say, the senile cataracts will develop, as well as there is something called age-related macular degeneration. MR, the AGMR, the AGMD, that is the age-related macular degeneration. This both will happen, as well as sometimes they may develop the increased intraocular tension, that is the glaucoma, and they have impaired contrast sensitivity, and the ability to accommodate becomes less due to the opacity of the lens, as well as the age-related changes in the ciliary muscles, and they have decreased dark adaptation. So, in the auditory, the hearing mechanism also, there it shows what we call presbyacusis. That means they have senile deafness. Especially it happens with the high frequency hearing loss, and there is also vestibular dysfunction. All these things take place due to the damages to the hair cells, as well as the decreased elasticity of the tympanic membrane, as well as the basilar membrane, as well as the stria vascularis, which produces the endolymph, that also become degenerated. Again, there's a damage in the cochlea, damage in the ganglionic cells, as well as damage in the area where innervate the temporal lobe of the cortex, where the auditory cortex, they also undergo degenerative functions, as well as the crista ampullaris, where the hair cells undergo degenerative changes, thereby leading to the vestibular dysfunction, so that whenever there is a motion or there may be post-related changes, normally that they also get hampered with elderly subjects. Sometimes you may also get what we call otosclerosis. So all the middle ear ossicles, they become fixed, their mobility gets decreased. That's the otosclerosis. All these things leads to senile changes leading to deafness. More of sensory neural type of deafness. And coming to the smell sensation. So the number of the smell receptors in the olfactory epithelium gets decreased, as well as even in there is a senile or degenerative changes in the olfactory cortex also. Both leads to deterioration or maybe diminished or decreased smell perception. And coming to the taste, again, the number of taste buds in the tongue becomes less. Normally, in a young subject, it will be about 250 papillae, 250 buds per papillae. It becomes about 90 or so by the time a person becomes 70 years or so. So there is a decrease in the number of taste receptors. The taste buds become less in number, thereby leading to diminished taste sensation. This is one of the commonest finding in elderly subjects. They will not be able to smell properly or taste properly because of decrease in the receptors as well as the cortical areas where they are being interpreted. Even there is a salivary function gets decreased, there is a decreased salivation. And again, as far as the oral cavity is concerned, that we'll see when we talk about the GIT, where there is attrition, there is a wear and tear, thereby there is a loss of enamel, dentine and cement, etc. And there is a teeth loss due to the caries as well as other periodontal diseases. So we lose more number of teeth. So it decreases the diminished masticating ability. Let us see the changes which are taking in the central nervous system. The central nervous system, there is a decrease in the nerve cell number, especially by the time a person becomes at an age of say about 80 or so. In most subjects, the number of neuronal cell number decreases by about 40%. The oxygen consumption decreases by about 25%. And again, there is a decrease in the, or you can say there is a degenerative changes in the basal ganglia as well as the lenticular nucleus as well as substantia nigra. So there is a decreased or degenerative changes taking place in the basal ganglia. And there is a change in the, or you can say age-related change in the neurotransmitters, especially decrease in the dopaminic level leads to Parkinson's disease and as well as leading to muscular rigidity as well as the pain rolling movement, etc. that we'll see in Parkinson's disease, as well as there is a change in the height, what we call high stepping gaits they will do, and the reaction time gets increased. And in the peripheral nervous system, the vibratory sensation gets deteriorated, or this sensation becomes diminished as we grow old. In addition to that, especially as far as the neurotransmitters are concerned, the cholinergic deficiency leads to the development of Alzheimer's disease. So there is an overall change in the central nervous system, both by means of number as well as the metabolism, as well as the various regions undergo atrophic changes, as well as there is a change in the level of neurotransmitters. So all these things leads to well-marked degenerative changes, which is taking, which is hallmark of an aging process. When it comes to the musculoskeletal system, again, there is a 30% loss of muscle mass, sarcopenia, which occur when you compare with the third decade to eighth decade. There's a 30% muscle mass decrease, as well as the osteoarthritis. Of course, osteoarthritis doesn't occur all of a sudden. It is a accumulated change. So from the age of 20, 30, as we keep on growing old, there's a stress on the joints. Slowly, the joints undergo inflammatory and other changes we call osteoarthritis. That will be due to the age-related change, and this accumulated change which starts at very early age and manifests in the elderly individuals. And especially it is more common in the weight-bearing area. We'll see the spine, knees, and tarsophalanges. In these areas, we'll see the osteoarthritis more commonly, and there will be repeated strains. And in the elderly subjects, there is another phenomena called osteoporosis. That is, the bone density becomes less. The bone becomes more spongy, more brittle. They are vulnerable for fractures, etc. This is due to the withdrawal of estrogen in female, especially at the time of menopause and post-menopausal women. And there is a decrease in the physical activity as well as the decrease in intake of dietary calcium. All the things contribute for the osteopenia and leading to osteoporosis, which is one of the commonest hallmark of an aged individual. Coming to the renal changes, the GFR, the glomerular filtration rate, which normally we measure by inulin clearance, which decreases about 30 to 46% as we grow old. By the time we become 70 or so, GFR decreases drastically about 40%. So after the age of 40, as already I have told you in the renal system itself, for every decade, we lose about 10% of number of nephrons. So overall, as the number of nephrons becomes less, the GFR or the glomerular filtration rate also decreases. Overall, the decrease will be more marked as we grow old. It will be about 40% or so as an average. Even the tubular functions, which are related to the reabsorption and secretion, that function also gets deteriorated. So we tend to lose our ability to dilute or concentrate the urine. That ability gets decreased. So our ability to concentrate or dilute the urine becomes less, especially the maximum, the osmolarity of urine is achievable at old age about maximally 750 milliosmoles per kg compared to 1200 milliosmoles per liter in the case of young individuals. Even the renal plasma flow or the blood flow to the kidney is markedly decreased. It's decreased about 50% or so approximately. And the creatinine clearance value decreases. Normally, the kidney tissue or renal tissue has got enormous reserve value. So there won't be much increase in the level of creatine levels or other nitrogen waste in the blood. When you take example, the blood analysis, the creatinine as well as the nitrogen waste becomes more or less normal. Until there is a circulatory stress which will predispose, wherein they lead to renal failure. And in these cases, the creatinine clearance or with the creatine value in the serum and other blood urine nitrogen, etc., they increase markedly, indicating there is a renal failure. So there is a formula in elderly subject. Creatinine clearance is 140 minus age into body weight in pounds and divided by 72 into serum creatinine. So, and for females, it will about whatever the value you get is multiplied by 0.85 for the females. So there is a age well established phenomena whereby as we grow old, the creatinine clearance decreases. And in addition to the renal system per se, and which is again related to the genitourinary system, where the prostate gland is there. Sometimes the prostate undergoes benign prostate hypertrophy, BPH, we call benign prostate hypertrophy. So which leads to the increase in the residual volume of urine. Normally it's about up to 30 ml or so, which is normal. So the residual volume becomes more. So in addition to that, it will lead to further deterioration of function, like it may lead to incontinence, etc. All these things can develop as a part of the enlargement of the prostate gland. So coming to the GI, the gastrointestinal system, wherein, so starting from the mouth, as I said initially, the masticatory ability becomes decreased because of loss of the number of teeth due to either attrition, wear and tear mechanism, as well as the usual loss due to dental caries and periodontal diseases. Number of the teeth become less, so the masticatory ability becomes less. In addition to that, the decrease in the masseter and other temporal muscles, they also become weak. So the masticatory ability becomes less, and there will be what we call dysphagia. There's a painful Painful are difficulty in swallowing due to abnormal relaxation of the pharyngeal muscles and over relaxation of cricopharyngeal muscle, as well as sometimes there may be diminished esophageal motility, especially at the lower part of the esophagus. The motility becomes less. All these things leads to dysphagia, which is one of the commonest finding in elderly subjects. And coming to the stomach, wherein the gastric secretion decrease about 40% or so in elderly subject. There's a commonest finding called echlorhydria. Echlorhydria means absence of hydrochloric acid synthesis or secretion. The same cells which secrete hydrochloric acid also secretes the Cassell's intrinsic factor. So the normal hydrochloric acid level as well as the vitamin B12 absorption depends on the intrinsic factor. So normally, due to the atrophy of gastric mucosa, the secretion becomes less. We call echlorhydria, as well as this leads to the malabsorption of iron as well as vitamin B12. So these are the commonest things in elderly subjects. And coming to the liver, normally liver has got an abnormal reserve, but still there is a increased amount of deposit of fat. The liver becomes fatty, and as well as there is it becomes more fibrotic. As fibrotic changes will take place, and more or less because of its high reserve, the most of the enzymology are the enzymes. The more or less remains normal, barring few enzymes are related for the metabolism of drugs and steroids. They may become the microsomal enzyme may become less, due to which their ability to metabolize the drugs, etc., become diminished in the case of elderly subjects. And when it comes to the small intestine, where the breast border, the height of the breast border becomes less, as well as in the breast border, the lactase activity is also decreased. These things leads to a slightly abnormal or compromised absorption. Nevertheless, in elderly subjects, the malnourishment is not primarily due to the disease of the absorption or digestion process. It is primarily due to poor dietary intake, which leads to malnourishment rather than the disease of the bowel. When it comes to the large intestine, where there is a decreased motility, so in elderly subjects, there is a tendency to form the constipation. So that is also one of the common finding in elderly subjects. So to summarize, there is a number of absorptive cells become less, especially the height of the microvilli, villi surface become less, and there is a decreased motility, or sometimes it may be normal too, and sphincter activity decreases, and definitely blood flow decreases, and gastric acid secretion decreases. As I said, it will lead to echlorhydria, and again the transport processes also to a certain extent decreased. So even then, as I said, the malnourishment in elderly is primarily due to the deficiency in intake rather than digestive and absorptive process, because the diminishing all these activities are very minimal to cause a malnourishment. Of course, malnourishment primarily occurs due to decreased intake. You'll see the changes in the skin, especially the skin becomes are more likely or more vulnerable for damage, and there is a delayed wound healing, and there is a decreased inflammatory response, so and decreased protection from the ultraviolet light, and there is a urticarial reactions will be decreased, and then again the hallmark of aging is the wrinkling and sagging skin, which is a hallmark of aging, and the skin easily stretched under low loads, so there is a increased stretchability, and all this due to the thinning of the both dermis and epidermis, as well as the decrease in the level of subcutaneous fat that also gets decreased. They all leads to these kind of changes. And there's a loss of resiliency, and there's a diminished absorption, altered thermal regulation, and there is a decreased sensitivity to pain and pressure. But these are primarily due to the damage to the neck nerve ending which are there on the skin. So now we have seen most of the changes which are taking place in various systems, starting from cardiovascular system and the GIT and renal or the system, as well as the central nervous system and musculoskeletal system. So there are certain changes I need to add further. That is the changes to the endocrine system. So some people say that these are the endocrine changes are the one they leads to the implication, or they're more implicated in the aging process as a whole. Especially the plasma level of most hormones decreases. That is again common finding in the old age. It's primarily due to decreasing the secretion, or the hormones, they fail to respond to the normal physiological stimuli by which they are normally secreted. Third, there may be decrease in the number of binding protein by which they are bound and they transported to the target cells. Next, there may be a decreased level of number of target cells, or there may be decrease in the number of receptors, or the receptor sensitivity may become decreased. These are some of the changes. By all means, in a sense, as a whole, there will be increased response to the hormone. Maybe the hormone level itself may decrease, or its physiological effect in the end organ may be decreased by the above set mechanisms. Especially when it becomes the thyroid, the basal metabolic rate, as I said, is decreased, which is due to decrease in the level of thyroid secretion. And by the time one attains age of 80 or so, the level decreases up to 50% or so. So again, there is a, when it comes to insulin, there is a impaired glucose tolerance, which is due to the insulin level may be normal or so, but there is a something called sensitivity of insulin on the receptor cell or receptors will be decreased. There is a development of insulin resistance. Due to this, there will be an impaired glucose homeostasis. So there is a study which shows that suppose if we give a known quantity of glucose in a young as well as adult individual, the postprandial estimation of glucose indicates there is a 30% increase in blood glucose after 2 hours of oral glucose in elderly subjects in compared to the young individuals. That means there is a overall diminished, or you can say impaired glucose homeostasis, primarily due to the loss of sensitivity, or you can say development of insulin resistance. And coming to the reproductive hormones, normally the estrogen, progesterone, they try to taper off and the level become less at the time of menopause. And the testosterone levels in males try to taper off by the time we reach about 70 years of so. And when it comes to the anterior pituitary, so especially the FSH and LH levels, normally they try to increase the level due to the loss of negative feedback, which is again caused by the estrogen, progesterone, etc., or the level of testosterone. So normally FSH, LH levels will increase, and ADH, renin, and aldosterone system, there is a decreased level of ADH, renin, and aldosterone system. Thereby, the kidney's ability to concentrate urine or to secrete concentrated urine becomes decreased in old age subjects. And when it comes to the other hormone, that is the vitamin D3, or you can say dihydroxycholecalciferol. So both absorption and activation gets decreased. So even in elderly subject, exposure to sunlight also becomes less, and dietary intake also less, and absorption becomes less. So all these things leads to the osteoporosis that we have seen already. When it comes to the blood and immune mechanisms, the volume and cells of blood more or less remains normal, and the marrow, when it becomes, the marrow reserve becomes decreased, the bone marrow becomes increasingly more of a fatty marrow becomes the hematopoietic stem cells becomes less and gets deposited with fat. Especially it starts with the long bones and later with the flat bones, and last affected are the vertebrae. And the elderly subjects common suffer from anemia. This anemia is due to deficiency of iron and vitamin B12. Of course, in these subjects, even vitamin B12 supplementation through oral route may not be of much help. As you know that there is a gastric mucosal atrophy, there is a deficiency of intrinsic factor. So parental administration will help you in the treating the anemia in these subjects. And these subjects also can undergo what we call senile purpura. And senile purpura, this is not primarily due to the decrease in the circulating number of platelets, which is primarily due to changes in the blood vessels. These are due to the changes in the blood vessels. So the reactivity of these blood vessels, especially the intimal layer, to the circulating platelets and other chemotactic factors become decreased, so they develop purpura. And there is an increase in the ESR level, which is due to increase in the fibrinogen level in the plasma. So that's increased ESR in the elderly subjects. When it comes to immunological thing, here both humoral and cell-mediated both will decrease. And in addition to this, there is a decreased immunosurveillance. You can say there is a property called immunosurveillance. The especially activated T cells, etc., they roam around the various systems and they try to find out the abnormal cells and they try to undergo the do phagocytosis. Such function is decreased, so that in elderly subjects there is increased incidence of development of malignancy, which is due to the deteriorating function of the immunosurveillance. And in them there are also involution of thymus, so there is a thymus processing of T cells become decreased or compromised. And in elderly subjects, increased T cell, what we call autoreactivity or development of autoantibodies. The trait of autoantibodies become increasingly more in elderly subjects compared to the young, because again due to their immune system fail to recognize the self protein as which was the foreign antigens. So they try to develop what we call autoantibodies against one's own antigens, which is what happens in the elderly subjects. Now the other system one need to know is the autonomic nervous functions or autonomic functions. There is an impaired thermoregulation. So thermoregulation also very vital for maintenance of life. This thermoregulatory mechanism also fails in elderly subjects. So normally when we are exposed to cold, there will be vasoconstriction and shivering. These things fail to occur in elderly subjects. Similarly, when we are exposed to moderate heat, there is a vasodilation and sweating. These two mechanisms, both of them fail to occur. So they are increasingly able to develop hypothermia and hyperthermia on exposure to cold and heat. So this is a finding in elderly subjects. And there is also what we call they're likely to develop postural hypotension because of their impaired baroreceptor mechanism. So their ability to respond to the postural changes become less. So as upon standing, they develop hypotension. What we call orthostatic hypotension is a common thing. So with this, we have most of the changes we have seen. Now, even the respiratory system, they try to show certain changes, especially the number of alveoli become less, the alveoli become more flattened and shallow, and the alveoli get enlarged and the ducts gets enlarged. The number of alveoli becomes less due to the degenerative changes or disintegrative changes of the interalveolar septa. They undergo disintegration, so that the number of alveoli become less. And the pulmonary complaints increase due to a decrease in the elastic recoiling of the lung tissue, as well as even the compliance of the thoracic cage also decreased due to you can say calcification of costal cartilages, and even the pulmonary blood vessels show age-related thickening. And functional changes, the functional residual capacity increases and residual volume increases, but whereas vital capacity and FE1 force expiratory volume in the first second, as well as the maximum breathing capacity, all these things decreases, and the diffusing capacity of the alveolo-capillary membrane becomes decreased. So there is a ventilatory effort is decreased and diffusion is decreased. So, and more so, the airways are susceptible to collapse, especially when there is a expiration. When you do forceful expiration, especially elderly subjects where they do exercise, when they make forceful expiration, there is a tendency to collapse. As atelectasis may occur in the airways. And the arterial carbon dioxide level as well as level more or less remains then normal with that of the young individuals. But whereas the oxygen levels decrease about 10 to 15%, this is due to increased physiological dead space. Increased physiological dead space decreases the oxygen content, but nevertheless, which doesn't deteriorate the supply of oxygen to the metabolic tissue, which is not much compromised. But the remarkable thing is the what we call bronchiolar escalator function or mucociliary clearance function. That is whenever there's a debris or foreign bodies or dust particle into the lungs, with the ciliary movement, they are all moved up to the pharynx, where as a phlegm they are expirated out, or you can say they are swallowed into the GIT. That function gets decreased so that elderly subjects, that mucociliary clearance become compromised, or the escalator function is compromised, so they are vulnerable to develop pneumonia. So with this, most of the changes which are occurring in the various physiological systems we have seen, and the other changes, especially the how all these age-related changes can be modified so that we can, from useful aging to successful aging, how we can enter is by various modifying things, especially wherein the exercise plays a role. So there's a saying by Maria Cator, she says that rather than seeking permission to exercise, you should have permission to be sedentary. That means one should have regular exercise. This regular exercise will have, you can say, decline, or you can say, which can, in a say, delay the aging process. So as the time is up, we'll see in the next class what is the beneficial effect of exercise and what is the role of the nutrition, as well as how to assess the nutritional status of elderly subjects, as well as what are the various theories of aging and what are the abnormalities related to aging, like progeria, wherein even a 2-year-old person shows baldness, loss of hair, another aging process, we can say accelerated aging process. So all those things we'll see in the next class. So with this, I call it a day. Today, what we have seen, what is an aging process, and suppose we need to understand the aging process well in advance, so that we can delay the process by doing certain interventions. And we have seen how various organ systems in our body, they show the age-related changes that we have completed today. The next class we'll see the effect of exercise, nutrition, and various theories and other abnormalities. Thank you.